We all know cars are dangerous, and we all know planes are statistically safer. But what about the place that you spend the most time in? Your home, your abode, your cozy nest. The place we walk around in socks and drink tea and assume nothing bad could ever happen. Well, most serious injuries and many preventable deaths don't happen on the road. They happen right here in everyday normal spaces. So today I want to share with you the 3 biggest dangers inside the home and how to reduce them. And number 3 is the one most people never expect. So as a former emergency nurse, I have seen what actually sends people to the hospital. So grab your tea and let's talk about how to prevent 3 common accidents. Now you are gonna have to sit down for this one. The third most common might surprise you, but it is fire and burns. And no, the most common cause of fires is not candles, heaters, or lightning, it's cooking. And funny enough, when I worked in urgent care and emergency, we always had far more cuts in the evening around dinner time when people were making dinner. And word to the wise, get yourself a chainmail glove. This is actually a scrubber, but a chainmail glove if you're using a mandolin for slicing. These things, those mandolins, they are tiny medieval weapons. You're gonna need medieval protection. So not a fire, but I did have to mention it. But how can cooking be the #1 cause of fires? So imagine you're making dinner and the doorbell rings. You think it'll only be a minute, so you walk away from the stove, letting your searing Mediterranean chicken sit unattended. Everyone is hungry, someone is crying, the phone rings, the dog is underfoot, the pan is on fire. It's a lot. Distraction is another major reason. Just last week, I had my back turned to the stove here, big mistake, and I heated up some broccoli in the pan. I was just heating it up. It was already kind of cooked. And yes, it was quite well done with a creosote kind of flavor, and it went from healthy side dish to campfire memory very quickly. Another is grease fires and even multitasking, even scrolling good old Instagram, probably on the rise, am I right? And I always tell my kids to set a 10-minute timer whenever they are boiling water or doing anything. And I really should have done that myself. And I do, like that's actually why I keep my Apple Watch. I kind of hate my Apple Watch, but I want to be able to set timers all the time. Because once when my eldest was a baby, I was sterilizing pacifiers on the stove and the pan caught on fire. Do you feel like I'm kind of a cat with 9 lives here and I probably have like 1 left? Other causes of burns are dryer lint buildup, and this actually happened a few decades ago when I was a 911 dispatcher. No one thinks the dryer is dangerous. It's just laundry, but sometimes the ordinary is what is most dangerous. And I remember a family that included 5 children died in a house fire from lint buildup. Now that is a tragedy. Other serious causes of burns, especially in young children, is scalding, hot water, liquids, and even steam. When I was 12, I had a kettle, I was holding it, and I took the lid off and burnt my hand from the steam. It was so painful, and I remember we went to the mall after that, and honestly it felt like the fire of Mordor in my pocket with my poor little hand. Here is how we can easily prevent fires. In the kitchen, for example, never leave the stove unattended. Use timers whenever cooking, as I mentioned, and keep pot handles turned inward so we don't knock them down. Keep flammable items, oven mitts, tea towels away from burners. That's also something I may have done before. And with grease fires, don't ever pour water on the grease fire. You're gonna smother it with a lid or use salt or baking soda. And have a small extinguisher rated for kitchen use in your kitchen. Now for electrical and dryer things, you're gonna wanna clean the lint trap after every single load. And I have teenagers and I will tell you, sometimes I'm like, okay, you guys, your clothes are not even gonna be dry if you don't clean this lint trap. Check the vents and ducts for buildup regularly. We actually just did that and used the shop vac and sucked it all out, which was so good. And also consider not running your dryer when you are asleep or away. And for open flames, use candles sparingly. Keep candles far from fabrics and always extinguish before leaving your room. Now for scald prevention, you can set your hot water heater to a safe temperature, especially when you have little kids. So that's 120 Fahrenheit to 49 Celsius or lower from what I've seen in my research. Now, and of course, turning the pots in can help kids from not reaching up. I mean, it can just be so tragic. I have a friend, her son was burnt because one of his siblings like came up with a bowl of soup and it went across the table and got in his lap, and it was very, very traumatic. Another surprising epidemic. This one does not feel dramatic. There's no smoke, there's no flames, just gravity doing its thing. The second most common thing is falls. And you might expect it's only small children, but no. I'm talking about people of all ages, including seniors and even adults. So in the emergency department, falls were a huge reason we would see people come in. And I happened to notice, just in my own sort of like way, that there was a sharp increase right around Christmas light hanging season, and again in the spring around tree pruning and like eaves trough cleaning season, from people getting out on ladders. And one poor guy, he fell and he broke both of his heels. He was in a world of hurt, but thank God he kept his life. My dad actually fell off of our roof once when I was a kid, and he broke his back, and he was in so much pain, the poor guy, but thankfully he lived. Children and falls are unfortunately pretty common, obviously, as you know, and you know, they don't understand to protect themselves. But when my eldest son was 4, I just remember he was so cute, and he's like walking, and he like fell, and he was like, I fall a lot. But that was, you know, like minor little tripping falls. But in the ER, kiddos, they often come in with head or limb injuries. And I will sing to the mountains like Maria in The Sound of Music, just how important helmets are. Please, please, please preserve your kids' brains and your brains. And I go to Vancouver sometimes because I'm just across the water, and I see people riding around, especially tourists. They rent bikes and they have the helmet like in the front basket. And I'm like, brother, sister, if you fall and you hit your head, you are going to have so much, like, I mean, don't do it. Like, good grief, put on that helmet. Oh, and then there are the whoosh injuries, which I believe stands for fall with outstretched arm or hand or something. And that is when people would like often break their wrist. Often it was seniors, just because their bones are more brittle and, you know, whatever. I mean, I do live where there's like a ton of seniors, but slipping on ice was super, super common in the wintertime, of course. And like, we hardly ever get ice, or well, we hardly ever get snow here. So we do get a little bit of ice. Anyway, I'm tangenting again, but a surprisingly warm part of Canada. But don't get me started on stairs. My husband, he likes to watch Fail Army, which is this YouTube channel, and it's like a thing men like, people like dropping things and whatever. I hate it though, because I hate watching people get hurt. But I will tell you, stairs will get you. Everyone is at risk on the stairs. Anytime that he's watching that and there's stairs, we're like, this is the stairs. And sure enough, I mean, I just missed a step going up the stairs a couple of months ago. I like put my front of my foot and I bruised my arm. People, they have devastating life, you know, affecting injuries falling downstairs, like just even as an adult. Imagine being like a senior or like a little kid. Stairs do not care how confident you feel. Stairs are the great equalizer. And again, yes, small children, they fall more than other groups, but seniors suffer far more serious outcomes. Sadly, this group would come into the ED, the emergency department, with falls a lot. And with shoulder and hip injuries were so common, especially the hip, and devastating, absolutely devastating. Just imagine being a senior who's doing like pretty good in life, but you fall, and maybe you got like a rug, or you're not stepping right, or it's icy or whatever, and you fall and you break that little hip right between the ball joint and where your femur meet. And healing, it's just not as easy. So you start to lose mobility. You decide not to get up. You maybe decide not to get up and then you get a UTI. Soon you get skin breakdown. Up to 20 to 30% of seniors will die within a year of hip fracture. That's huge and devastating. Long recoveries from felt like just a step. And falls, they don't feel dramatic, but they are one of the most life-altering home injuries there is. Here's some fall prevention for everyone. First, strength and coordination for all ages. I know you're like, what? No. Being strong is good for all of us. Leg and core strength is so important. And one of the things that a ton of seniors do is they just let their leg strength go. Try not to do that. Get physio, do exercise, try to get that back. Balance and stability training, so important. Now for kids, physical play is so good, climbing, running, jumping, but be supervised. Motor skill development and coordination is so important too, and just make sure your kids see their doctors so they can be assessed for that. Strong bodies fall less and recover better in all ages. Another big one is vision, footprint, and sensory input. So correct vision at every age is so important. Tons of seniors have cataracts issues. Sometimes I wonder if I might even be getting it, and I'm only 46. Maybe I just don't drive at night enough, I don't know. But shoes that grip, fit, and support is so important. Avoid slippery socks and worn out soles. I also have some sandals, the bottom, like the rubber is like old, so it's like super slick, and like I walk on like wet grass and I'm like, whoa. So for kids, well-fitting shoes and safe play surfaces. Feet and eyes guide the brain. And the third is a safe home environment, so important. So for adults and seniors, lighting is huge. Handrails, use a handrail. Grab bars are good in bathrooms, and having clutter-free paths, and you know that's one of the things I talk about on this channel all the time. One of the big reasons to declutter is so that you don't fall. Now for children, stair gates are so helpful. Window guards are really important. I know in Canada, another thing is like those walkers, like with the wheels, they're illegal in Canada for decades. Now you can only have the exerciser, which is like on that disc, and you put the baby in, and they're like, woo, and they like, but it doesn't move around. Yeah, so I don't know about elsewhere in the world. Non-slip bath mats can be really good, even in the tub if you want. Having anchored furniture is really good, especially for kids. Clear play areas. The environment should support the person and not just challenge them. And another big one is just health and awareness. Getting a medication review, making sure you're hydrated, managing dizziness and fatigue. I know with a lot of seniors, a lot of them are so dehydrated because for some reason the thirst drive really goes down as we age, and that really can contribute to dizziness because our blood pressure can get a little bit lower. Also addressing pain and weakness. Now with kids, having adequate sleep, supervision during risky activities, age-appropriate safety rules, because fatigue increases fall risk at every age. And one more thing is don't rush. Carry loads safely. Use handrails and teach children to walk and not run when they are indoors and around a bunch of sharp corners. One of the biggest things is most falls happen during everyday familiar tasks. And my aunt was at a grocery store holding, I think, a watermelon, and this was this last summer, and she turned to leave the till and tripped over a pile of baskets and landed on her face. So being careful when we're carrying things, so important. And now the biggest risk to you in your home, and that is poisoning. And this surprises everyone. It's not usually somebody trying to steal your inheritance by putting arsenic in your mashed potatoes, or even a bottle with skull and crossbones. Most poisonings, they look boring, and that is why it's dangerous. Often it's medication errors, taking the wrong dose, confusing medications, which is easy to do when we are busy, tired, and distracted people. I want to be honest with you. A month or two ago, I wanted to get up. I went in the closet in the middle of the night and was grabbing Tylenol and thought, this is the Tylenol bottle. I was going to take a medication that I grabbed in the dark. And then I thought, you're being stupid, go turn on the light. Another thing is children getting into medicine. Kids can even suffer from things like iron poisoning from multivitamins, or people will share prescriptions. There was also a teenage boy who recently wanted to mix some home medications recreational. He went to ChatGPT, which is not a great place to get your toxicology advice, and he died. I also have a friend whose daughter died from a Tylenol overdose, and that was not uncommon in the ED. Thankfully, there is an antidote, but as I mentioned, my friend's 18-year-old daughter, she died, and quite painfully. So this is something you need to be very careful. And a quick note on that is that so often people will think, I'm just going to take another dose. It's just Tylenol. We feel like Tylenol barely works, which, you know, Tylenol works well when it's paired with ibuprofen. I'm not giving you advice. You're going to have to talk to your pharmacist or your doctor about that dosing. However, sometimes people think, I'm having severe pain. This hurts so much. Why is this not getting better? So they take another dose. I had a friend who reached out to me last year. She sent me a message. It was a Marco Polo message, like a video message. And she said, I am in so much pain. And nothing I take is taking this away. And she waited like 3 days. And I said, girl, you need to get yourself to the emergency department, because if your pain is not at least tolerable after taking, Tylenol or ibuprofen, I don't remember what she took, like you should at least be able to like cope. So she went. Turns out she had an abscess in her brain. Thank God she went in. She ended up having brain surgery. So remember, pain is your friend. It isn't a warning system. So sometimes you need to go ahead and go to the emergency department or your doctor or whatever. Just a little FYI tangent. Another interesting one is mixing cleaning products. Now, did you know that bleach and ammonia can cause toxic chlorine gas? Or bleach and vinegar can also cause chlorine gas? Hydrogen peroxide with vinegar or bleach can cause peracetic acid or other irritants. Now, these can irritate the eyes and lungs, trigger coughing and shortness of breath, cause nausea or worse. But here's a really scary one, and that is carbon monoxide is in particular called the silent killer for a reason. You do not smell it, you do not see it. You feel tired and then confused and then very sick. And an interesting note is people often talk, in the emergency department, we would talk about cherry red skin with CO poisoning because carbon monoxide, it binds to hemoglobin much more strongly than oxygen in your blood. But that is not a dependable sign, but it's just always something people would say, cherry red skin. So you can be seriously poisoned without looking red at all though, so word to the wise. And you need to know the warning signs. They are headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, flu-like symptoms, feeling like I just need to lay down. Worsening symptoms at home, and then they improve when you go outside. Here's how to prevent home poisonings. First, medications. Keep all medications in their original labeled containers. And you can use pill organizers if you take daily medications so you don't double dose. And many pharmacies will be very happy to blister pack them for you, which can make it even easier. Also, never share medications. And be careful when combining medications, especially anything that causes drowsiness or affects breathing. That is something that we dealt with so often in the emergency department. Also, keep all medications locked away from children and teens and dispose of expired or unused meds properly. Don't keep them just in case, and to dispose of them, you can take them to the pharmacy. Don't mind my kitten. He's mad that he's not allowed in here. Second, let's talk about cleaning products. Never mix cleaners. I think we've learned that. And always use good ventilation when cleaning. And store chemicals out of reach and clearly labeled. And avoid transferring products into unmarked bottles. Oh, that can be super dangerous. And now let's talk about carbon monoxide. Install carbon monoxide detectors on every level of your home. We have one. It is right behind me. Test them regularly. And I don't think I've ever tested my carbon monoxide detector, so I will. Anyway. Have fuel burning appliances inspected. Never run grills or generators indoors or in enclosed spaces. And finally, listen to pain and symptoms. As I mentioned, if pain is severe or unusual, don't just take more medication. Worsening pain, dizziness, nausea, or confusions are signs to seek medical care, not just push through. Most poisonings, they don't happen because we're careless. They happen because life is busy, routines are rushed, and small mistakes add up. And sometimes we're like, I just don't want to go in. I don't want to deal with this. I'll do this later. No, small changes make the biggest difference. I do not want you to be afraid. I don't want you to panic. I just want you to be aware. Make a few changes to your routine and your setup so you are not going to suffer from one of these accidents. Most of these risks, they're not extreme, they're actually normal. And because they are normal, so often we find them easy to ignore. But just eensy-weensy changes can make such a big difference. Your home should feel calm and it should be safe. Knowing what exactly matters is how we get there. Now, I have mentioned reference to emergency nursing. Check out this video for why I left nursing in general. I hope something great happens for you today. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.